Yay! Hello, studio family. Welcome to episode 2 of Amanda Fish Voice Studio's Notable Chats. I am so excited that you all are here, and in just a few moments, I'm going to chat with speech language pathologist Jessie Palmer about everything vocal health. And as you know, as vocalists, we're kind of vocal athletes, right? And our vocal health is so utterly important. And Jessie and I are just going to chat about all things that singers should be aware of when it comes to our vocal health and what we can do to improve our own vocal health. And so Jessie works at Philadelphia's Ear, Nose, and Throat Associates, which is like one of the places on the East Coast to go for all types of vocal care. Patti LuPone and Julie Andrews may or may not have been there before, casual. And Jessie has a background as a singer and a teacher himself, so he's really able to see everything from a singer's perspective. Jessie and I actually both went to Elon University together and got the same exact undergraduate degree in vocal performance, so y'all know that he's smart. And he knows what he's talking about. Okay, so I'm hitting the little button, and I'm gonna invite him to and see if this works. It says waiting for Jessie. Hello!
Oh,
How are you?
just swell.
Well, so good. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
I'm
it's
so excited. All
yeah.
right, excellent. So I just want to start off because when I was in high school, middle school, I didn't know what a speech language pathologist was. Maybe I wasn't a very well informed middle schooler, but that's just the reality. So, what is a speech language pathologist? Go.
Well, it get any better. I didn't know what one was either. But a speech language pathologist in general is someone who helps with communication. Like when somebody thinks normally of a speech language pathologist, they might think of somebody who works with a kid with language delays or with articulation issues. Or with adults, it can be more of working with people who've had a stroke, who have issues with communication after that. Swallowing also comes under our purview, but what I do is just a very niche area of speech pathology, and where I'm working more with the health of the voice, the sound of the voice, and all that entails.
Excellent. And as I mentioned just now, we both went to Elon University.
Mm.
And I feel like speech language pathology is something that a lot of people who are vocalists who have that foundation then kind of pivot into as a career path.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that might be something that people are considering if they love music and love voice, but also like, I don't know, want to have like a 401k or healthcare, you know? So like, what made you make that, you know, decision to go into that field after you got your degree in vocal performance?
Of pretty much those kind of reasons.
That's fair.
Going into college, that I loved music. I wanted to do something with music, but I wanted to find something that had a little bit more stability. I knew I wanted to have a family and do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And at first, I was a double major with music technology, and we just didn't mesh. It was not good for me. I was
You
very,
music tech. I remember that actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun. But what I ended up doing is observing with a speech pathologist over at UNC who was also a singer, and saw what she did. I was like, this is awesome. It's really
Yeah.
cool. And kind of since then, I decided that's the route I wanted to go in. For a lot of people who come into this field doing the voice thing like what I do, it's a lot of people who've already like had some sort of singing career, who've like on more down that road, and they're thinking, okay, I'm wanting something maybe a little more stable, or I'm wanting something that, I don't know, is can use my skills but maybe in a different way. And I just realized that in school, so I kind of went straight into it. But again, a lot of people going into it are further along the career paths. But especially for what we do with voice, even if not working specifically with singers, it is so helpful to have a singing background and to have a teaching background, because you know where the singer's coming from, you know the terminology. If they tell you that they're feeling something, you can kind of internalize it a little bit. And that kind of background and experience can really help also empathizing with the patient.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's part of why we see a lot of singers who do this specifically in the voice area. I think it's also good with doctors who deal with this sort of thing as well. I'm fortunate the main doctor I work with, Dr. Sadeloff, he also has a doctorate in music. He's a crazy person.
Oh,
Um,
seriously?
yeah,
Casual.
yes. But knowing that a singer maybe isn't a crazy person and you should actually take what they're saying seriously is helpful, because a lot of
Yeah.
times go to a normal ENT, they might just not have that same context as, say, someone who is used to dealing with singers and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. That's
Yes.
so important. Good. So you have no regrets. No regrets. And like what is a typical day in the life? Because it's a lot of one-on-one
It
interaction, much like private voice lessons, to my understanding, right?
It really is a lot like private voice lessons. A
Mhm.
therapy session, to me, looks a lot like a voice lesson, because as a teacher or a therapist, you are listening to the student and seeing what you hear in their voices, a lot of problems. Okay, this is what it sounds like they're doing. What exercise is going to help address that? And so in my office, it's hour-long sessions. And I mean, one of the things that is less fun about it than, say, just teaching voice lessons, well, depending on what you're doing with the voice lessons, is extensive notes. Like, because you got to make sure insurance understands that this is necessary.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes
Um,
Listen, if you're a good voice teacher, you're writing extensive notes anyway, so
exactly.
it's
Exactly.
fine.
Yeah. Trying to double back on what I was saying there. Yes, you should be taking notes, period, because I
Yeah.
was, but
But that makes sense.
yeah.
There's more of a yeah.
And dealing with insurance, and
Mhm.
what's really nice about, again, working in an office like I do as opposed to just being in a private practice on my own, is that, like, I can go and talk to the doctor, I can go look at the strobe of the vocal folds, and we can get more of that collaborative type thing. And so, but I'd say that one of the main differences is what I'm looking at is more of just purely from a health standpoint. We get a lot of people who come in to see us who may already have a voice teacher, and we don't want to step on any toes. We don't want to ruin the work that you're doing with your voice teacher. What we're wanting to do is just tweak things and make them healthier, whether that's working in a singing voice context, which we do some, and definitely just with speech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. And then I want to like pivot to just the vocal health through singer's
Yeah.
perspective things that I have for you. Um, so first of all, just what should all of us as singers be doing in our daily lives that will help us with our vocal health? And I'm hoping, I feel like I say a lot of things to my kids every day, but maybe if they hear it from an actual professional, it will help.
Main things that's different between us as vocalists and, say, other instruments is that our body is our instrument, and you got to
Yeah.
take care of it, and you have to be aware of it. What you do to your voice talking throughout the day is going to have an impact on what voice you have when you want to be singing. And so you want to make sure you're mindful of how you're just speaking in general. I know that, again, a lot of times, like when we're in middle school or high school and like we're doing all of our stuff with our choir friends or doing these musicals, everybody gets super excited, ends up yelling with their friends
Oh,
backstage. They don't have a voice by show week. I can't imagine why. Um, but it does make a difference how you are using your voice outside of singing. And obviously, you want to be careful of that. And that's certainly more the case down the road if this is like something you want as a career path, and something, because we want to make sure you have your voice for when you need it. But as far as other things, just day to day, hydration is very good. The vocal folds, they are itty bitty little muscles, maybe the size of your thumbnail, you
Mm-hmm.
vibrating. Like when girls are speaking, somewhere around 200, 220 times a second. For guys, maybe more like 100, 120. And if that little vibrating that quickly, um, that can cause some issues. The outer layer of the vocal folds is actually kind of more gelatinous, so it can handle all of that impact. And so we need to hydrate so that it stays that way. If it's not as hydrated, it's going to be stiffer, it's going to be a harder contact, and we want to keep that lubricated, just like you need oil in a car. We need to have water for the voice. So definitely that. I would be aware of eating like right before you're going to be singing or things of that nature. I know that um, reflux is a very common thing that people don't
Yeah.
realize have. But that can have a big impact on the voice. And so there's other dietary concerns with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I have a lot of students, unfortunately, who've been struggling with acid reflux.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know there are things specifically with that that you have to do. Um, do you come across any? I feel like, and as myself, in my experiences as a performer, you meet all sorts of vocalists, and everyone has, their own little vocal health routine and these things that they do that they think help them. And sometimes I meet people and I'm like, is that really good for your voice? Like, I don't know if you encounter people, especially in the performing industry, who are doing things that they think are good that maybe aren't so much. Like, I know there's all sorts of like throat sprays and lozenges, and like now like belt box is a really big thing. And like, do you do you have any maybe products or practices that you don't necessarily endorse?
Well, just going straight to the most common thing, everybody's like, oh, if I'm having issues with my voice, I should drink tea with lemon and honey. And while tea and all that, that's all well and good, it's not really doing anything to your voice. If anything,
Jesse Palmer.
I'm
Not even my throat coat traditional medicinals tea. You
sorry.
guys.
I'm sorry. But if you're adding lemon to it, that's not great because lemon's not great for the reflux.
I have heard that. Yeah, it's very acidic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I mean, if it makes you feel good, do it. I don't care. But a lot of people like swear by it. It doesn't really do any.
But it makes you feel good. Maybe that's okay.
Has
Oh
to
my gosh, that's funny.
feel good. Another thing, as far as like when people use like these sprays, like Singer Saving Grace, like those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might feel good in the moment, but the reason it feels good in the moment is because you are numbing everything. And since you are numbing everything, you're not as aware of what your instrument's doing. And you are at a much higher risk of injuring something or maybe pushing yourself farther than you need to.
Mhm.
Especially when people are using that, it's often when the vocal folds are maybe a little inflamed, a little fatigued, and they're already in a position where, you know what, you want to be careful with them.
Mhm.
If you take already compromised vocal folds, take away inhibitions and any sort of pain or anything, and people just build on top of it, that is a recipe for disaster. And so there's a time and place where, like, say, I need to get through this performance, very important, sure, but you want to be careful. I would not overuse things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that parlays into something else I wanted to ask you about. It's like scenario, because unfortunately, this has happened to some of my students before, right? Especially my high schoolers, because their lives are crazy. They're not getting any sleep to begin with, right? And,
Yeah.
scenario, you wake up the day of a big musical theater show, you have one of the starring roles, and your voice is just shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like what, as a vocal health professional, what is the most ideal thing that you do in that scenario?
Rest. Give yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't spend all day trying to hammer something out because you're only going to make it worse. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say hydrate. I think sleep and kind of going back to good habits because you were mentioning
Hmm.
rest. Sleep.
Hmm.
Sleep's good for everything, but please.
For sure.
Um, but if you rest, that can help allow that swelling to go down. I
Mhm.
mean, there's studies out there that say as little as 15 minutes of vocal rest can help swelling go down in the vocal folds.
Wow, really?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, giving yourself time to rest it, I think, is good. Maybe doing some exercises to try and get the voice going. Nothing like, I don't want you belting out there. I don't want you forcing the voice out, but something easy like, do you do straw stuff, kids?
Hmm.
Yeah, I love straw phonation.
Oh, yes, yes. Straw exercises are the best.
Those are really great because of the back pressure they create. It opens up the throat and it makes it harder to force the voice out. Also, there's a lot softer contact of the vocal folds together. So straw on its own, straw with the water,
Hmm.
lip trills when done correctly, because it is easy to punch with the lip trill.
Yeah, it is.
They all fall into what we call semi-vocal tract exercises, which I won't bore you, but those kind of things can help you get the voice moving without necessarily putting a lot of wear on those tires.
Yeah, yeah.
Checking in, doing some of those things, but really just rest of the voice and period.
Hmm.
And I mean, when you're getting closer to the time, seeing how you're doing. I never really encourage singing when nothing's coming out or forcing something big because you are putting yourself at risk.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when it's like I know these are very important. It's so exciting doing this, but especially if this is something that you're serious about and wanting to do down the road, you don't want to mess up your voice in a high school show, and that can have effects when you're trying to major it in college and be cast in shows later on down the line. It's all about perspective with that.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Keeping in perspective and then like preventative maintenance, it sounds like, right? Making sure you're doing everything to prevent waking up the day of the show with almost no voice. Yeah, yeah. That totally makes sense. Okay, and the next thing, I have a couple more questions for you. So, I feel like I'm very maybe too good about kind of making sure my students are informed just about all general vocal health things. We've watched the videos of, the vocal folds and everything like that. But now I feel like, because I feel like over the course of your life, especially with getting colds and coughs and different things, your voice there's going to be days when it's not happy, right? And I think now some of my, more serious high school voice students are very quick to be like, I don't have a voice today, therefore I have vocal nodules and my life is over, right? So, like, at what point, when is there a specific point where something is serious enough where you're like, okay, you should go in and get scoped versus you need to just calm down and drink some tea? Not that it does anything, but it'll help your soul,
Um, well, general rules for coming in. I say if you notice like a change in your voice, like you're getting hoarseness or having issues with the singing voice you didn't have before, and it lasts for a couple weeks, then I'd say it's time to maybe get it checked out.
Yeah.
You are having physical pain with voice use, I would have you check it out. If you and this would be something that they would probably discuss with you if there's something like going on with voice lessons and you're putting in the work and doing what you should and not noticing the progress should be there. Like if you're just,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
well, even if you're doing what you should be doing and there might be something going on with the instrument, I'd say going in and check it out for maybe some of those situations. If you notice a huge change in the voice, like immediately, suddenly, and it's not going away after a little bit, yeah, you probably should check that out. And even if it's on the cautious side, here's a school of thought for better safe than sorry, but you don't want to be like, oh, I was yelling the other night and it's my voice doesn't sound the same today. Well, no, of course it's not sounding the same. Dramatic activity to your vocal folds. I'd say if there is a change that doesn't resolve within a few weeks, that is a time to really kind of go in.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. That specific time frame is good. So I'm gonna probably be reminding people of that in the future for sure.
Something to keep in mind is when you are going to get things checked out, we see a lot of people at the end of the road because a lot of people have seen general ENTs, which there's certainly a time and place for that. However, a lot of times, like I said, they don't have like the same insight into it as somebody who maybe is a trained laryngologist who did a fellowship year and
Yes.
knows their stuff. And
Hmm.
research that, find the good people in your area who you can see if they have a voice team, what their background is, if they even specialize in voice. Because if you see somebody who's like general ENT, they're dealing with allergies, they're dealing with nasal stuff, they're dealing with tonsils, whatever. It's like that's all well and good. Might have some insight, but also they're not going to have the specialized equipment that say somebody who does this has, because we get the really specialized strobes where the video is able to show us things on those small vocal folds that you're not going to be able to see from something that's not meant for that purpose. So I would say when you are going to see someone, talk to Amanda about who you should be seeing and get her advice on that.
Yep, and I'll tell you to drive to Philadelphia and go see Jesse Bonner. No, I'm kidding. I really wish you lived in DC though. That would make my life easier.
I'm sure.
It'd be nice to be able to refer people to you, maybe one day. And so I did have some students send in some questions. I mean, very similar to things we've already gone over. So Bridget asked, hi Bridget, because I think she's watching. I can't see. She said, how do you deal with gravelly and tired voices? Not with tea, Bridget. Everything I've told you is wrong.
Care if you use tea, it's not going to solve things. Rest. Hydration and rest.
Yes.
Wish there was some sort of magic formula that would work instantly for you, but that's going to be something that you're going to want to do. And if you are fine, your voice is getting tired and gravelly frequently, then that's something that maybe you want to look into, and whether there's something wrong with the vocal folds, or maybe you can see us, even if there's not anything seriously wrong with the vocal folds, maybe be referred for some speech therapy to change how you're using your voice while you're speaking so that you're less likely to have this happen.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And then the last one is from Amanda, not this Amanda, different Amanda. And she said singing during allergy season, and then she put a sad face, which is so real, because I've never struggled with allergies until 2 years ago. I started getting really bad pollen allergies every spring. And it is a sad phase. It's a struggle as a vocalist to deal with allergies every year.
And you just got to be more careful with that.
Yeah.
You have a compromised, and at that point, I will say with the allergies, try and get it taken care of medicinally, but also be aware that these medicines, a lot of them can dry you out.
Yes.
Right of the folds.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you mentioned some of these cough drops before, and I forgot about that. A lot of those things are very drying. A lot of these things have menthol on them, and menthol's great for the hydration of the voice. If you're going to be using these cough drops or anything, I'd recommend something that doesn't have menthol. Something to keep in mind, or eucalyptus, or any of those types of things. But yeah, to get through that, you just got to be more careful, more aware of your. And I'd be careful about limiting the coughing, limiting the throat clearing.
Yes.
Big no. Please don't do it.
Big no. You heard it from Jesse. Just don't cough. Don't
Never.
cough. Don't do it. Never.
Boy, you can. Coughing has its place. I mean, if something's not going down into the lungs, that's fine. That's the biological purpose of the vocal folds. But if you can avoid it, I'd recommend it. If you can swallow to try and alleviate that sensation, if you can take a sip of water, you can talk through it. Yeah, the voice might not sound perfect, but I'd rather you talk through it. Maybe that's going to shake the mucus off of the vocal folds. But whenever you're clearing the throat or coughing, you're slapping the folds together. They are hitting together hard. And when you don't need that on top of the everyday voice use on top of if you're trying to sing, especially when you're in shows or whatever. So that's just something that's good to develop habits now before you're having issues to avoid.
Mhm. So don't don't do that. None of
Don't,
that. That's
no, no.
bad. That's a no-no. Right. And that's all the questions that my students had for you.
Oh, that's
You. That's really, yeah, that's all she wrote. Unless you have anything else to add, any other pearls of wisdom, then
well,
we can. What did you say?
I see our friend Lise wrote about a steroid shot.
Oh, what did she? I'm so bad at this. Oh, I can see it now. My throat is
Yes.
so sore. I thought I had a carrot stuck in it. It was just a very inflamed vocal cords. A steroid shot helped greatly, and that is something that I know some of my voice friends have had to resort to in times of like, I need to sing in 20 minutes. It needs to sound amazing, you know. But I mean, that's definitely like a Hail Mary situation, right? Like absolute last resort. You know,
Exactly.
your understudy is not here. Like you must go on.
I
Yeah.
would not do it if you can avoid it. Just because,
Okay.
just the same thing I've mentioned with the things that are numbing the throat. You're probably going to be putting more effort in inflamed instrument, and you're just more at risk. Uh, but in Elise's case, I don't think she was like about to sing the lead the next day. So I think you're fine to say the wrong thing. Something to keep in mind from a singing standpoint.
I mean, you never know. Elise could have a beautiful voice. She's a beautiful human.
All around, for sure.
Oh my goodness. Well, this was so much fun.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here
thank
virtually. Taking some time out of your work day.
you.
I don't know why I do this so much. This is like my thing, my virtual thing. So I've been ending every voice lesson over the past 5 months with like virtual high fives because I usually high five my kids in person and I can't do it and it makes my heart sad. So
I
we're
know.
gonna do a virtual high five to conclude this very productive. Yes. All right. Thanks for being here.
So
Thank you
much.
everyone for watching. I'll be posting this to the page so everyone who missed it can watch it later. Yeah. Bye. Say bye to all your Doing fans. All right.